Now, do we have to dance to intro music or anything, or
No,
we just
I think we just went right to being live.
right now? Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
No green room. Here we go.
No, no. How you doing?
Pretty good. I'll say, listen, I'm wearing this shirt possibly for the last time. Pertainer, I love you. You're still fun to play with, but the underarms have massive holes in them. And I walked on to the studio today and sweat through this shirt so badly. So I'm glad I got here like an hour ago so I could, stop sweating. But yeah, warm, I think is what I'm trying to tell you. Warm,
it's
very warm.
it's warm outside, not just the shirt.
Also true. Yes, warm outside, and this is definitely a hot shirt.
Nice.
Having just set up Portainer on a few computers at home, I can say yes, it's still pretty handy.
Yeah, I think I feel like Portainer's been the main tool I've used to manage containers for a long time, but sometimes I go out of using it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was you who got me to look at Docker Toolbox again with its new AI feature. Is
Yeah,
it Gordon?
yeah,
It's Half-Life, right? I'm trying to think of like what my mnemonic device here to
right.
remember their
Well,
sidekick's name.
Gordon is the turtle.
Oh, right, you did tell me this, and I totally forgot it because, like, yes, Half-Life is how
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember this. I think I haven't even played Half-Life, but I think Gordon is the main character.
Oh,
This
really?
is all I remember.
Hmm.
No idea. It
Half
is
Life was
handy
the
though
one
as
with
a
the
tool.
portals that you go through, right? The round.
I believe that was Portal. I think Portal had the portals. Imagine that.
Oh, Half Life was different. Oh, Half Life, you were going through
I think you
the
start
like
on a
the
train.
biomed like lab. Something had gone
Yeah,
wrong, and you're trying to try to kill things.
yes. In fact, if I understand things properly, that Aperture Labs may be related between the two, but the one
Hmm.
in Portal. But then maybe I've confused it. At any rate,
Yeah.
the Docker Toolbox is what I was using for a little bit, but I feel like when it's on a different machine, I want a web
Yeah.
UI to do so, and Docker Toolbox just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
I used to like Kitematic. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this product before. Uh, a fair amount, a fair amount. There's something about being able to scroll through a menu and have photos and little descriptions and stars and
Hmm.
ratings and sortings and filtering, making it like a little mini store or
Right.
like a little market that for me works really well. And I guess maybe I can pretend I was planning to segue into MCP marketplaces. Have you touched any of these like MCP.so or any of those other collections?
Uh, I've seen a few of them. Um, And I think that's probably the biggest challenge with MCP is just how do you create a catalog of available MCPs and not just a catalog. I mean, it's easy enough to put it together a list, but how do you know that these things are good, trustable, trustworthy?
Yeah, I mean, you're sending traffic there. It
Yeah.
could be unprotected or not
Yep.
unprotected, unencrypted traffic to it. Yeah, I have a lot of worry and doubt when it
Hmm.
comes to like an NPX command that just sets up a redirector that goes
Right.
to an API. Yes,
And
totally
it
agree.
depends on
And what they're
how
doing with
you
that data.
use the MCPs. I mean,
Right.
are you running it locally using it like MPX command, I think, or
NPX, UV, UVX, or sometimes Docker.
or
And that, like, that's another whole soapbox topic. But
right,
yes, NPX or UVX are the big ones.
or there's the what SSE to connect to it
Yes,
remotely.
yes. Which I think is the right way to do things. But you have to trust that third
Yeah,
party who's running that website. I think is the other
right.
problem here. Yeah. So MCP.so is the one that I've been playing around with. I'm not sure if it's the
There,
best. I think
one
Angie
second.
Jones had a pretty good post about it
There,
too. Yep, go ahead.
there's my dog is going nuts for some reasons. Let me go check and see what's going on. I'll be right back.
No worries. I will try to tip this cat for the audience or maybe jazz hands. I think the main thing is if you've got an MCP repository or a location that's handy for you, I would like to know about it. The other one that I'm using is the Model Context Protocol dot I think org, which has a GitHub repo and 5 sample implementations. One of them is sequential thinking, which I use a lot. The other used to be Puppeteer, which is now archived, and I think Playwright is in there now. So those are the main ones that I use, the ones that are I guess sanctioned or approved in that GitHub repo right now that say that they hit all of the server capabilities for Model Context Protocol, and as a result, I guess that's what I'm using. Hopefully, Matt's got some others that he can share with us. But yeah, let me know in the chat or in comments if there are others that you use, because we would like to know. And then we'll wait for Matt here. I think I've got another couple tools as well that we'd like to talk about. So Gemini CLI would be the next. If anyone's got any experience with that, or Goose, I think someone had recommended on the chat a while back as an alternative to Aider. But those are the tools that I'm trying to use with MCP servers at this point in time. And hopefully Matt's dog's okay. Ah, that was a big bang. Here he is.
Kitsap Septic decided to come by to do the inspection of the septic system. Like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's why the dog was protecting the house. I thought there was
Yes,
something wrong with your
yes.
dog. And then we heard a
No.
big bang. So it was like, is Matt actually okay?
Oh, really? You heard a bang?
I think it's just probably your door closing.
Hmm. Oh,
Something
yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So the only thing I was saying while you were gone, as I was trying to jazz hands for time here, was there's a repo on GitHub. I think it's the Model Context Protocol.org repo. And it used to have a few tools, maybe
.org. Okay.
30-ish. .org, yeah. And it's sort of like the definition of what an MCP server would be. And they've got,
Right.
I believe it's down to 5, I don't want to say ordained, but like approved,
Mm-hmm.
basically, implementation. So one of them that I use is sequential thinking. The other one that I used to use, I think is archived, is Puppeteer, and I believe it's been replaced by Playwright right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Memory is in there as well, which I think is from Anthropic.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few that are fun to play with, at least locally, where you can I don't want to use the word grok, where you can understand what
Right.
they do. You can figure out by looking at the code what's actually happening in it. So Memory is pretty simple. I think sequential thinking, as well as it uses a tool, you can tell what's happening.
Right.
And Puppeteer, at least it's just a few calls to Puppeteer
Mm-hmm.
running locally. And many of them could run in Docker or NPX or UV, depending on what they are. But I would like to see a centralized repository where people are trying things for me
Mm-hmm.
and going through that curatorial process
Right.
to show me the ones that are the best, the ones that the community uses.
Yeah. And like, I mean, that's what Docker is trying to do by creating that catalog that they have vetted everything. But
Oh, for MCP? I haven't seen that
for
actually. My
MCP, yeah.
apologies. Right on.
But if there's one that you know that you
Right.
want to use, it doesn't seem like it's an option to use unless you, I mean, to use it globally, unless you set it up per directory, and then you
Right.
can create that config file. So I mean, that's it. Yeah.
I almost want to know that there's at least in terms of my usage of MCPs, that there are capabilities that can be turned on when needed, but are not needed for every call, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. There's no reason to like invoke this
Right.
every time you're making a call. So I
Right.
don't think it's the case for every tool, but
Right.
some tools definitely will load like every MCP server that you've got
Sure.
turned on. Aider, I think, is what I was again in
Mm.
Jazz Hands time talking about. Aider, Goose. I think the difference would be like Gemini CLI, for example. I'm not sure if you played
Right.
around with that, but it seems to load them when required, which is actually pretty handy.
Right.
Unless I'm misunderstanding this, but it seems to be a lot of unnecessary tool calls where,
Yeah.
uh, like using Puppeteer to load a website where the model itself has web search capability is kind of silly.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Just as an example.
Right. Yeah, and I've been playing around with Open Web UI recently, and they
Oh,
have
cool.
tools, but it does not use MCP.
Oh,
So they
is it
implemented
ADA or okay?
it's their own thing, and they
Okay.
implemented it before MCP came along, and so it's more mature and definitely better to use, but there's fewer examples because it's not MCP, and that's got all the love in the kind of community.
Right. Now I've heard
And
of
it's
5 standards. Is this the XKCD where we've added a like a sixth to unify
and
them all?
when it's interesting in that you don't point to code that runs somewhere else, you're copying the code for it and putting it into a kind of like a large dialogue, paste that in there, And so
Oh,
it's more like what was that? The Chrome inside Chrome, you could have uh, wrench, something wrench, or
Monkey
um,
Wrench?
huh? Monkey wrench? Yeah.
Spider
For
Monkey? I know what you're talking about where you can
yeah,
mess with web pages as they're loading.
right. And so it's kind of
Grease
like that.
Monkey. Grease
Grease
Monkey.
monkey. Yes, yes.
Monkey Wrench.
Sounds
The,
like
the beauty of memory.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like that approach is actually nice. It almost feels like it's an added on or an add-on to a prompt or a system prompt where
right,
it's like one of those that bolt-on side portions. I
right,
think is what I kind of like. I like that with multimodal tools as well. It's like or models where you're not using both modes unless you need them and
right.
you load them as you need them, is if I
Yeah,
understand the concept properly, which is really nice in terms of speed and footprint,
right.
and cost as a result.
Yeah, I said more mature, but then it's also a whole lot. It's both better and worse the way that
Of course.
open. I mean, because they will integrate with um, MCP. There is a way to set that up. You're going through kind of a proxy, and uh, and that's kind of awkward to set up, but because it came out later, and
Mhm.
I'm sure I'm sure the I mean it's really one developer along with a community of lots of other people. I'm sure folks thought, oh well, it's MCP, it's this new thing. It's not gonna. It's how why is it any better than ours? It's not going to last, and it's lasted.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's July now. I'm trying to look at the time here, but like that's not a long time to launch something and have it become so popular, it
Yeah,
feels like. And maybe it's overly popular. In some cases, it feels to me where maybe it's a situation where people actually don't understand what an API is,
yeah,
and they're using MCP as an API, which is fine. No, I'm not
right.
disregarding this. It's actually a pretty cool approach. Also, it feels like some people are trying to maybe bolt on MCP on top of APIs, which I
Mm.
also don't think is a bad approach. I'm not sure if you've seen that Postman wizard where you can generate MCP servers from API
Mm.
definitions,
Okay, no,
which is, again, I think is a good approach. I do think that MCP has the capabilities of being something completely different, but
mm.
that may take time. I
Yeah,
think it's more than anything else. And if all it is right now is a wrapper for APIs, I think that's
right.
actually okay. I
Yeah,
think what people are discovering is that API plus your own front end or maybe your CLI tool is actually pretty handy. And I think this is something that at least in DevRel we've known for a while, right? When you're going to make a demo, you'll spin the API wheel on one end, spin it on the other side, and then add two things together. So say you've got like a geo or geography API, and you've got one for weather.
hmm
Maybe you could show weather on maps. I don't know. Big thoughts here. Big thoughts.
I'm just looking at what the guys on the deck are doing. Looks like they've.
Yeah, I'm reading this comment. So Nicholas wants to know if we're doing well and that it's predicted by the end of the year, agentic AI coders will be as good as senior SWEs. And I guess the comment is, it's scary how fast Singularity is approaching. I will say it does feel like we still need human in the loop for code.
Oh yeah,
I don't know, Matt, if your experience is different than mine.
yeah,
I've had zero shot code come out and work flawlessly, but also it feels like a complete misunderstanding of the prompt that I've put in as well.
right.
So even though it works, doesn't mean that it's necessarily good,
I mean, I think
or
there's
tested.
always been the threat of a new technology that's going to kill the software
Right,
developer jobs. Whether it was like
right.
what are they called, 4GLs or whatever. Where they're
Hmm.
you take all these little building blocks, put them together, and it becomes the application. And we're not going to need software developers anymore. And
Right.
that was definitely a thing 30 years ago. And well, software developers are still here. And
It's really weird.
I I don't I don't we, considering how fast the technology is moving along, I still don't
Mhm.
see it replacing developers. It's allowing more more people who are not developers, who don't have that background. It gives them more ways to shoot themselves in the foot, but is not getting there are some companies that will let people go and blame AI for better
It, it's
productivity of
disingenuous, isn't it?
existing,
Yeah,
huh?
exactly.
But I don't
Feels a
know if
little bit
that's
Machiavellian or
yeah.
disingenuous. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what is that what Microsoft said? Oh, AI is
Have said. I'm not sure if the most recent
yeah,
round was. Yeah. Yeah, but
yeah.
have said for some of them. Yeah.
That
I,
that I only know that because my 92-year-old mother's boyfriend. So mother is not 92, but the boyfriend is. Um, he was mentioning it in the car when I was
wow.
taking them to lunch, and he doesn't. I mean, I yeah, some of those technology problems are. I try to avoid getting into it, but he
Definitely.
knew about this.
The other I'd say is if you're using Windsurf, you've got models that are called, is it Sui Light? Is
Yep,
that listen, love windsurf.
yep.
Good things, bad things. For sure. That model for me does not work for
No,
what I'm trying to do. Unfortunately,
no.
it takes 6 or 7 shots to get
Yeah,
what I could have gotten from Sonnet 3.5
yeah,
in one or two. It's
yeah.
just, and I get that they're training it, and it seems very enterprising as well. It likes to return a bunch of folders
Right.
and a bunch of files that go in folders and classes, which is fantastic. But I do feel like in that case where it's like the right project fit for the right task is important. I don't feel models get that, and maybe they will for sure. The other is cutoff dates and programming languages like Zig, which is becoming
Mm.
popular. I was hoping Crystal would become more popular. It's not caught on, but these languages
Crystal?
where people are, yeah, it's on the Stack Overflow charts. I promise, but it's
Uh,
really not that popular.
Wait, what? Isn't that wasn't that like an old thing?
I don't think it's that old. I wonder what you're thinking
What
of.
am I? Wasn't there?
There's Ruby, which is also
No,
shiny.
no, 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 no. Wasn't there another like Chris?
Oh shoot.
I don't know.
Hopefully it's
Maybe not.
not super old. But there's also things like I'm trying to think of there are other people using I think it's OCaml, for example,
Hmm.
or like Emacs will use Lisp or Lisp
Right,
like
right,
languages, and trying to get a model to go through that type of coding endeavor
right.
is not impossible, but next to impossible just because they're not trained on this type of thinking
Right.
or this matter of thinking. It's more mathy.
Thinking about Lisp, Lisp was definitely the AI language for all long. Lisp and my
I think
my
it's still maybe in some circles, right?
oh yeah, my when I was in college, I did a introduction to artificial intelligence programming, and the language we used was Schema, which is a offshoot of Lisp. So
Where you're making expert systems by chance? Because if you've
essentially,
got
yeah,
infinite
yeah.
ifs, I think Lisp is an okay language.
Crystal reports is what I was thinking of. Yes,
Oh, my, I haven't heard the crystal
I think
report
that
in
might be
so
a different thing.
long.
Yeah,
That is fair because when you use it in a shop that uses it, they would actually just say Crystal as
Crystal.
opposed to
Yeah,
Crystal reports. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely true. No, Crystal is a newer language. I think it
Okay,
might be 4 years old at this point in
okay.
time. I don't know. Have you played around with Zig at all?
No,
Because it's depending on who you talk to, they may think it's just as popular.
right.
I think it's a little bit more popular because Mitchell Hashimoto used it to make Ghosty, which is gaining some
Mm,
traction. That terminal.
yeah.
I want to say terminal emulator, but I think it's a terminal emulator framework is the proper term for this. But
Yeah, it wants to be really good, but it's not. and I still use it, and I'm still frustrated with it every day. It's like this stupid thing. Why am I
Yeah,
still
yeah.
using this?
One is missing features, which I think Mitchell will say is an opinionated approach, and that if
Right.
you want them, you can fork it and make your own. The
Yeah.
the other is just yeah, it's hard to compare when you've got iTerm on the computer that you're using.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. On the other hand, GNOME Terminal on Ubuntu is actually fairly good. I can't say I don't like it. It's fairly fast.
Oh,
I've used Kitty, I've used Alacrity as well, but GNOME
right.
Terminal is actually totally fine these days. I used to hate it, but
Yeah.
having used it a bunch last week, there's really nothing wrong with it. Uh, okay. And then Nicholas just said also some companies were saying that they were going AI first, like Klarna, Duolingo, and then they've made a U-turn. Yeah, I mean, the other is listen, if you're using this as an excuse to lay people off, um, and again, I hate to be mischievous, but sometimes hiring people back at a lower wage can save you money as well, or
Yeah.
hiring back fewer people.
Yep.
Um, again, I'm not sure if that's happening here either. Just
Yeah,
seen this happen
getting
before.
getting rid of somebody and then telling the person who's still there, now we're going to adjust your job description to include some of what that other person did and some of what
Right.
you did. It's probably easier to get rid of the both of people, create a new role that is just what you want. And
Yep.
probably the person who was there before probably doesn't want to get that new, uh, and so it's
Doesn't want to do 1.5 times
yeah,
the work for the same
yeah,
pay. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
That can also be
And somebody
difficult.
who's new doesn't realize it's 1.5. They just know it's one.
Right. This is just a job description that
Yeah,
I've applied for. Yeah, straight out of college. Let's give it a
yeah,
go. I've got ChatGPT. What's the worst that could
yeah.
happen?
Did you see the
Uh,
person who's been
yes,
got
yes. Had five
hired
jobs.
like 5 times?
Yes, I've forgotten his name. I just watched that over
I
lunch.
I
Uh,
just did, yeah.
if Fireship is it Code
Fireship,
Report?
yeah,
My
yeah. Code
apologies,
report,
but,
yeah.
but from Fireship. Yes, that was hilarious.
Oh,
And
I
some of
wish.
this,
I wish I could have thought
right?
of doing that.
Well, also, what was that subreddit he mentioned?
Oh
Shoot,
yeah.
I forgot what it
I
was.
mean, it's something
It,
that like a lot of people are doing this stuff.
there are 30,000 plus members in this subreddit
Now,
trying to have
maybe
multiple online
25,000
jobs.
of them are like hoping that they can do it or trying to learn
Fair,
how do
fair.
they
These are aspirations.
right.
But yeah,
How do I
a fair
screw
amount
over
of
my
people.
employers?
Well, I don't even know if it's screwing over. He said, and let's assume this is true, that he was working 180 hours a week trying to do five
I saw
jobs. Now that
120.
is 120. Okay,
Yeah.
but let's say 120. Now that's not 8 hours a day, and
No.
maybe you're working weekends. And he was delivering things, and he said
Yeah.
not using AI,
Yeah.
which again is amazing to me. But the memes coming out of this are what just killed me. It's like it's like the Scooby Doo thing where they take the mask off, and it's just this one person was the entire engineering team the entire time.
Yeah.
It does feel like if people are quiet quitting on one side
Right.
and then there's layoffs happening on the other side, there are also people who are just mailing in their work or
Hmm.
using ChatGPT and mailing in the
Yeah.
ChatGPT work, which is probably happening too.
Yeah.
I want to think that I can discern the difference between the two, but it is difficult for me to
Yeah.
tell the difference between just a thought I had about something and some research that I've done
Hmm.
versus something that I think someone, Ken Dobbs, called it the
Hmm.
genie the other day because it's almost like it's mischievous and its answers to you.
Hmm.
And the it here is every LLM model, but it does feel like I can tell the difference, but I'm not sure how long that's going to be the truth. I guess is what I was getting at there.
Hmm.
So if somebody was using Gen AI or many
Right.
agents to help them do their own job, I'm not sure I'd be
Yeah.
able to tell until I got on the Zoom call or went to do an interview
Yeah.
in person. It might be difficult,
But thinking of the 120 hours, I could totally see. I mean,
right?
if you're at a certain age and you're in a few, working a job. I mean, I remember when I was, when would this been? I would have been like 25 years old when I just
Mhm.
started at Microsoft, and I was so excited. Was I 25? See, 90. Oh no, 99. So I was 29. Um, and I was so excited because I was able to get my number of hours worked down to like 90 to 100 hours a week. I was like, "Oh my
Oh.
god, this is amazing. This work-life balance is finally a thing."
Yeah, I definitely like consulting for sure. I
Yeah.
was certainly aware of how many hours I was spending a week, and I would definitely want to be going over 40 every week for
Yeah.
sure. And that was just like it's just billable hours. But those are billable hours, not the amount of
Yeah.
time I spent in the car
Oh
driving to
yeah,
work
yeah.
and between clients and all that stuff. Getting to 40 billable hours meant working
Yeah.
probably 60 hours,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Just consulting's not glamorous, folks. You can make some money for sure, but yeah,
You mentioned a name earlier, something Dobbs.
I think it was Ken C. Dobbs. Do you
Oh,
remember
okay.
the
I
C
think I've seen
programmer?
that name. Um, Not anything to do with Dr. Dobbs' journal. Do you remember that magazine?
I do. Holy moly! There's another name I haven't heard in a while. I do because they give you code samples that you could
Yeah,
write on your own.
yeah,
Yeah, I did take C at one point in time in my life, and I have copied a few straight out of the
yeah,
magazine. Yes, that's hilarious. It's been a while. I'm not sure if they're related. I could Google.
yeah.
Maybe the chat could tell me, but I don't think they are.
I mean,
Uh,
we're fine with like claiming different people are related when we have that
Yeah,
Glover
yeah. I mean,
comment.
listen, if other APIs can hallucinate, I
Sure.
think our API can
Yeah.
hallucinate as well.
Somebody actually asked in a comment about a human API. So maybe that's what they're talking about.
Isn't that the pin human API? Didn't they make the pin?
Oh, I don't think he was talking about that, but that would.
Ah, now listen, I've been thinking about Mechanical Turk a lot. I think is the name of it. But
Mhm.
is that the human API we're talking about? Have you heard of
I
this?
I remember or the wasn't that like a service through like early AWS?
Still a
Oh,
service
oh, it's
through
still a
AWS.
service. Okay, I didn't know that.
You can rent out portions, partial humans. It's amazing. You can break up problems into small little
Right.
bits and have people solve them for pennies on the dollar,
Hmm.
basically. And for things like verification, companies may or may. I'm hoping it's not canceled. I should look it up just in case,
I mean, I
because
remember
it
that
was a service for a while.
before EC2. I don't know, before like the
It's
early
still around.
things. Wow,
It's
that's
still
it's got to
around.
be one of
Yeah.
their oldest services.
Yeah, yeah, 24/7 human in the loop service for sure.
That's awesome.
And I think the goal is to break things up into like 1 minute max problems. So that would take about a minute of thinking time,
Yeah.
essentially. And you just take a big task and you cut it into small little problems
Right.
and you send it to multiple people. You multiplex it basically. It comes
Yeah.
back and maybe you average out the answers. I guess is what you're trying to do. Very similar to I think reCAPTCHA would be uh,
Mm-hmm.
a more visible example of that. So selecting sidewalks. So essentially, you're labeling
Right.
image data. In case anyone
Right.
was wondering what that was,
Right.
you're helping label data.
Yeah.
And I thought some of these Gen AI companies were using this, but I could be wrong. Maybe I
Yeah.
misunderstood.
When there was somebody that just fizzled out pretty recently, where they were actually sending the work out to humans in
It-
India.
that that was a whole other scam. Yeah, that was pretending to be Gen AI,
Right. Yeah.
but actually farming it out to
Yeah.
call centers in India. If
Yeah.
I understood this properly. We are in you kind of know you're in a bit of a boom when you're getting these one scammy things.
Right.
The second is getting into areas where regulation seems tenuous or not
Right.
suited for what you're doing, to not to follow the YC playbook, but something like that. Like when it requires policy change, it
Right.
means that you sort of hit a certain level of company.
Yeah.
And these two indicators, at least for me, mean that there's a lot of, I guess the third one is money coming into the market.
Yep.
So even though there are jobs, there are jobs going out of style. There's certainly some that are coming into style and then quickly going out of style
Right.
again. Like prompt engineering, I think was a flash in the pan. I don't think that's
Hmm.
a thing anymore. I don't think
Oh.
that's a job title.
Oh, not a job
Is it
title. No,
still? Oh, okay.
it's something that you
Whew.
should just
It's a
know.
task. Yeah.
It's basic stakes for working with this stuff.
Table stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just get boilerplate,
Yeah.
common
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. And people do share out their prompts and they are
Yeah.
super handy. And as you were talking,
Yeah.
sometimes it could be like a tool call or a way
Yep.
to use an MCP for sure.
Yep.
All right, so I want to talk about that. I touched on Windsurf and I missed my
Yep.
segue into
It's
Cursor.
cursor.
But
Yeah.
and I'm not too angry about this. I'm just a little angry, mostly because I don't like signing up for things, and I had signed up for a year when the pricing changes. And you said you weren't aware of this, so maybe you
I
can
was
keep me
not.
honest in case I misunderstood this. So there was a cursor change yesterday for billing. I have yet to have any issues with it. I do full disclosure pay for Cursor and pay for
Hmm.
Windsurf because I'm pretty interested in whatever a new IDE looks like. This I don't want to say I have any skin in the game, but I definitely am very interested in how people interact with computers. As a
Right.
result, this is where I landed. So I'm paying for two products. Cursor, for me at least, as I've been using it, and maybe I'm the problem. In fact, I think when we were talking about MCPs earlier, I kind of let the cat out of the bag in that I really like to use a tool called sequential thinking. And what it does for me is transform Cursor and Windsurf into something more similar to a Klein or an Aider or a
Hmm.
Goose, where it will do something, where it being the IDE will do something and then checkpoint and continue on doing. And some of you may be using like to-do.markdown to do something similar, or maybe a task list or a quad.md or an agent.md. But I find this workflow very interesting. it looks like what Cursor's done is change the pricing so that those subsequent tool calls were previously not billed the same way as they're going to be, which is that every time you're sending the context off, you get rebilled, and the unlimited sort of gray zone that I was in for all these calls.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, basically, it's to get those unlimited calls, you have to pay per call now. You can't just pay $20 a month and then call as much as you want, which is what I was getting away with, which I loved. Which
Right.
is why I thought for a year this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I can make 20 tool calls in one call.
Right.
I may have been the issue, but it was
So
so handy that
so are
yeah, I
they
just got used to a certain method.
are you roll are they keeping that the plan that you've bought? Have they changed the
No,
plan that you bought? Oh,
yes,
is that legal?
table flip. I don't know. I'm in Canada, so so probably.
Oh
What are we gonna
man.
do? Tar and feather you with maple syrup and goose feathers? I don't know. Canada goose
Yeah.
feathers. So that was supposed to be a Canadian joke. Uh,
Yeah.
I listen. I locked the pricing because I felt like taxes and stuff like that might change as well, and
Right.
it did seem too good to be true, and it may have been. But I don't want to pay above and beyond the 20. I guess is where I'm at. So I have to have
Right.
like the auto billing turned on in order to
Yeah.
have those unlimited tool calls that I had before. And,
Hmm.
and, and listen, I get it. Having tried the same workflow in
Sure.
Aider, pointed to Claude. Sorry, pointing to Anthropic using Claude Sonnet. Still not cheap, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to end up being the same amount is what it looks like
Hmm.
as when I use
Hmm.
Aider.
Unlimited usage of tab. Oh, you can still use tab.
Tab is fine, and Tab is still the goat.
Yeah.
Or goated as the kids may say. It's fantastic. Tab
Yeah.
is so good because it makes me feel like I know how to code sometimes when I really don't know what I'm
Right.
doing. Is great. But yeah, I'm
Oh,
gonna miss
only
this.
if you're
And
paying the
Nicholas is
$20 a month. Right.
right,
Okay.
which is what I had done. I'd pay for that in
Right.
advance. Now, Nicholas is absolutely right, though. Sequential thinking is totally wasteful. So it
Yeah.
uses a lot of tokens for no reason. And in
Hmm.
fact, it may be me and all the other people using this
Hmm.
MCP server that were the cause of the problem because it did actually it almost spiraled out of control in terms of the tokens used.
Right.
And when using other tools, your context window would quickly fill up
Yeah.
unless you're compacting or compressing or whatever it is the
Yeah.
proprietary method is. But that's where I'm at now. I'm looking for tools
Mm.
that compress and compact context as
Right.
they send it off because it's a headache. So Gemini CLI is where I landed, and I've been
Okay.
having a good time with
Yeah.
2.5 Pro until I run out of again whatever plan I'm on. But
Right.
it does look like the unlimited is right now. If you want to start playing around with coding, unfortunately it's not cheap. But
Yeah.
these unlimited plans that may not exist forever because
Right.
unlimited can have a different term that are fantastic
Yeah.
essentially because you can just throw unlimited spaghetti at the wall until
Right.
something sticks. It's great. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is my billing snafu for the week, I guess.
With windsurf, it changed. I feel like it changed how they price things. Changed at some point. It's interesting how pricing plans fluctuate and they get better or they change. I mean, sometimes there's not a change,
Right.
but there's definitely a change in how you're getting the amount you're paying. And
Right.
with windsurf, I found that as the months go on, I'm hitting that maximum usage
It's faster.
far less than I was before.
Oh, oh, I'm hitting it faster, but I think it's
Mm,
because I'm using the tools more. Now one thing about Windsurf is, are you bringing your own key for Sonnet
no,
3.7 and 4?
no,
Okay, neither am I. I'm using 3.5 or Google or whatever, and I
yeah,
have tried Speedlight. The other is I find that I use a lot of tools. So I use a
yeah,
ton of MCPs. I don't always need to, but
yeah,
I'm trying to do quote unquote test-driven development
yeah,
by defining front-end tests, and that's
right,
expensive. It's not cheap. But I'm learning about testing. So I'm like,
yeah,
this is cheaper than a course for me. I'll gladly
right.
pay it.
And the
What
new
model are you
planning
using
stuff that
and what
they've
tools?
added is really
Oh,
cool.
yes. Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like that architect persona
yeah,
or viewpoint.
yeah. That's
Which models are
fantastic.
you using with Windsurf though?
I can't remember.
Oh,
I don't ever change it. So I was like,
oh,
I can't
yeah.
remember what it is, and it's not on this computer, so I don't know.
I think that's actually kind of fantastic. The
Yeah,
fact that you don't know what it is. I
yeah,
mean, it's fantastic for Windsurf at least.
yeah,
It I've met
It's
people
definitely not
who.
SWE.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say, like, I think if you put it on auto, it
No,
goes to
no, no,
SWE,
no. I mean,
and some people.
I said it at some point, a few weeks or a month ago, and I can't remember what I said it to.
Listen, I've talked to people, and if they're listening to this podcast, I apologize, who have used Windsurf and said it's terrible. And then I asked them what they're doing, and they're like, "Oh, I just, I opened it up, used the chat, whatever, and it was bad." And they said it couldn't modify my files, et cetera, et cetera. So they were in chat mode. Okay,
Yeah,
didn't know what model they were using because they're in
right.
auto mode, probably SV1,
Yeah,
and said like they ran out of context, blah 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 blah.
yeah,
All these forgot
yeah,
what I was talking about as I was talking. It's like
yeah,
this all tracks. But like if you're not using those drop
yeah.
downs or swapping the
If you're not
modes,
changing it, yeah, it could be it. I mean,
they've got a point though. The
everything
defaults
I've
should work.
seen so far is that ever since Windsurf has come out, Cursor is trying to catch up if you set
Yeah.
it up correctly.
Yes. I would also argue that the people I've talked to have the right opinion that the defaults should work. If you're like a Mac
Mm,
user and you're used to like proper settings and et
mhm.
cetera, you would assume that the default model or the default auto should work.
Right.
And it frankly doesn't. The other is that you shouldn't need to use that MCP for memory because I think the Windsurf team said they would pick on memories as you go, and it does sort of work, but it often will forget.
Hmm.
And I'll put it all caps. I go into boomer mode, all caps. Remember, like
Hmm.
you must remember, run the tests
Right.
before you commit to Git. Don't skip the pre-commit hook,
Right.
please.
Yeah.
But it still sometimes does it. So I get it. There are some things here and there that are problematic.
Yep.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. It feels like it's missing a manual, or the manual needs to be
Yeah.
better, or there's
Yeah.
some like onboarding video that needs to show people how to use Windsurf properly
Yeah.
because I think it's better than
That
Cursor.
said, have you gone to their website or their YouTube page?
Oh shit, no, I haven't. That
They
I hate to
like in
swear,
the
but it's like,
last
yeah, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. I should watch it
3 or 4
thoroughly.
weeks, they've put out
Okay.
their Windsurf University, and it goes through everything
Oh,
and shows
wow,
here is how to use it, and
nice.
it's really and it's split out into different features, and each feature is talked about by a different person on the team. And
That is
so you
fantastic.
see all the different people involved with, this is the product that I worked on, and he talks about, but it's not just their opinions, because if you have a developer saying what it is, it's not going to make any sense and it's going to be confusing. So it's definitely written well.
That's spoken as a true developer
Yeah.
advocate. Yes,
Uh,
unfortunately, that is true.
yeah. As somebody who owned the docs for Datadog for a long time,
Right.
I mean, some of the docs they were written by developers before, and they were terrible.
They can often be
Yeah,
terrible, yes.
yeah,
Yeah. And there's languages
yeah,
involved and stuff like
yeah.
that too. There's different coding paradigms. It does feel like I guess the next segue for me in terms of the editors and developers is around those docs.
Yeah.
So have you found well, or maybe what is your workflow? And I've asked this before, I'll ask it again, to get documentation into your IDE in order to use it with an LLM. What is your secret sauce?
I haven't needed it in a
What?
while,
Okay. Okay.
but
I'm trying
I
I'm trying
haven't
to think of what
been.
you're using that would be like pre-cutoff date, that like it's not a problem.
I'm not building something in Svelte. I'm not building something in what was the thing
Okay.
that we were talking about before?
Zig
Apollo?
Crystal.
Is it
Crystal
Apollo or
reports. Apollo version 5. Yeah.
yeah?
Astro maybe is what you're thinking.
Astro is what I mean. We're not before
Okay.
today, but before like a few weeks ago.
Yep.
You were
Yep.
Astro,
That's the biggest thing
Apollo,
that
Astro,
happens to
whatever.
me.
Yeah,
I thought it was Apollo for a second listening. You,
yeah,
you could have fooled me. But Astro V5 is the thing that gets
yeah,
me every time.
yeah. And
Or
I think when I
Shad
was doing that, that was when Windsurf was just making it easier to get access to docs inside of Windsurf. Um,
Yes.
yeah, that was a frustrating few weeks, but then it all got fixed, and I can't remember what I've done.
Right. Have you tried dragging and dropping PDFs, or pointing to
No,
PDFs and ingesting them? No, not at
no,
all.
no.
Wow. I'm amazed by this. Somehow it's just blowing my mind.
I haven't
You
been
don't like drag in boilerplates and stuff like that? Like how are
I
you?
haven't been building anything in,
Okay.
it's got to be a few weeks. I haven't.
No way.
I mean,
I feel like you
so
were riding the wave before everybody else, but like everyone I know is building these. I don't want to say dumb, but like simple,
yeah.
easy apps.
And I was doing that for a long time. And then about what, 3, 4 weeks ago, I went to Michigan with my wife and daughter. And then
Right?
I came back and I've kind of been goofing off the whole time since then. I haven't put out a
Fair
single
enough.
video in 3 weeks.
That feels difficult to believe. Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Huh.
haven't, my last video was before I went to Michigan. It's about 3 weeks ago. And I actually have a video that's ready to go. I mean, it's on YouTube. I just need to press publish. Um,
Oh, wow.
uh, yeah, it's
Jeepers. What have you been doing? Have you been like actually enjoying summer? Have you been touching grass?
um, yeah, yeah. There's been a bit of that. I'm averaging now 6 or 7 miles a day walking through
That's
from
awesome.
from here to. So when you live on Bay or when you're on Baybridge Island, you can go
Yeah.
to a lot of the island just by walking on trails, and
Nice.
they occasionally have to cross the street, but not that often. And so I'm able to go from our house right on Manitou Beach all the way out to a park called Battle Point, which is on the other side of the island. And I go all on trails, and I cross 2 streets and all that. Um,
Wow.
and it's amazing.
And
Uh,
do you talk to Claude the entire time? What are you
I
listening to
listen to
audiobooks?
I listen to I download a bunch of YouTube videos and I listen to those.
That is cool.
So
There's something about YouTube Premium that just opens up a different
yeah,
way to
yeah.
ingest video that I really like.
It's interesting that I probably watch I consume a lot of content on YouTube. I would imagine most of what I consume I don't actually see any video
Wow.
because it's in my pocket and I'm just listening on my headphones.
Now I do find I do a lot of rewatching.
Yeah.
Embarrassingly, I really like Alan Watts, who is a bit of a
Hmm.
hippy dippy
Okay,
philosopher.
yeah.
Let's say he's pretty. He's the one who talks about wiggles. In case you've ever heard this, like sampled in songs.
Hmm.
Oh,
Okay.
bigger wiggle, a little wiggle. Anyway, talking about the particles versus wave theories and how a
Okay.
wiggle could be both.
Okay.
Just to tie it into something real, so it doesn't sound that
Right.
out there. But I will find that instead of watching it and it just has subtitles, maybe it's a footage of the class,
Yeah.
listening actually allows me to concentrate more on the
Yep.
words, and I may actually get more out of like a lecture. I think I learned this because there were some Yale classes. Well, Harvard CS50 was the first one, so
Hmm.
CS50 I could listen to.
Hmm.
If you haven't heard about it in the chat, it's actually a really good course
Amazing.
that is
Yeah.
free and on YouTube where you
And
can
it's
go through
updated
with it.
every year.
It is
And
phenomenal. Yeah, I
and
haven't
the
done the
hall
current
they
course,
do
but
it
holy
in
moly.
is gorgeous.
Oh,
It's a
you've been there?
beautiful building.
Oh,
You
say hi
you
to Foamy.
drive kind of. It's like
I forgot
there are
about this.
roads that
Say
go
Harvard.
around it. It's a
How do you say Harvard? I need to
Harvard.
know.
Harvard.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know the right way to say it, but
It, I,
it's something like that.
at least from what you can see of the classroom, because you can
Yeah.
see a little bit of the
Yeah.
chairs as well. And it feels a little bit like you're there, so maybe you are missing a bit when you're listening to it.
Yeah.
But I find when he's talking about the rationalization or the logic of algorithms that he's going through,
Right.
especially early in the course,
Yeah.
like going
The
through
splitting up the
like a
phone book.
yellow pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, for like
Where did they
a
find the
search.
yellow pages?
Well, I'm not. I haven't seen that example in a couple years, so it
Yeah.
could be that
Yeah.
they can no longer find them. But that is a great course and perfect example of being able to listen to a course and sort of get the same out of it. Now, I was trying to segue, and I think I've got it. So one of the things I like to use when I'm listening to music and YouTube these days is these ridiculous glasses that I got cheaper than a normal
Uh
pair of sunglasses.
huh.
Look at these dumb glasses.
Yeah.
Can you tell that they're quote unquote AI enabled?
Because I don't often look at Ray Bans, I wouldn't know one from another. Did I see something flash? Was there, or is it just a reflection?
You did. You saw something flash,
Okay.
and I think that comes to the crux of the issue with these is that
Mm-hmm.
one you can't tell, which I think is a problem. And I
Mm-hmm.
understand the Google Glass hole issue. They didn't want to have glasses that were like obviously
Right.
spying on you. I think that's the issue. Is that the other thing is when it flashes a white light, and you
Yeah.
don't know that I've taken a photo or what's happening. It was
Right.
just waking up basically, and you can't tell what's actually happening. So you could
Right.
say it's in the case, so it won't work. Meta start recording a video, and it can start recording, or I could just press the button on the side of
Yeah.
the glasses and take a photo or take a video, and it will pulse white. So if you know what to look for, you'll get it at night. It's obvious. During
Right.
the day, it just looks like a reflection.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to tell what's going on, but it does have Llama 2 capabilities, which are
Hmm.
not great. I wish it was 3.2
Is
or
that
anything
on
else,
device?
basically. They say it is. I think it's actually on the phone,
Oh,
on the
okay.
Meta app, and that it sends an
Right.
image to the phone or a video to the phone, and then the phone will send back over Bluetooth what
Right.
it has done.
Still pretty cool.
It does say it does it offline. I also don't think that's true. I think it's primarily online.
Yeah.
I would have to like look at Wireshark or something
Yeah.
like that, but the delay is significant in that if they're doing it on phone or on device, they've done a poor job of
Yeah.
convincing me. It is pretty cool as a pair of headphones though, which I thought was very interesting to me. It's
Really?
got downward speakers, so I can hear outside as well as music or YouTube or
Mm-hmm.
what have you while walking. And I have mentioned this, my partner injured their leg, and as a result, I've been walking the dogs a lot lately. And
Mm-hmm.
having speakers on sunglasses where I don't want this because I need to be aware of.
Right.
Unlike you, I don't live on an island. I live like
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
downtown Vancouver. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of cars, etc.
Yeah.
So it's important for me to be aware. But surprisingly, like the AI, not great. The photos weird, especially if you're wearing a cap. It's left eye instead of right
Oh,
eye, and I'm
okay.
definitely right eye dominant when I shoot. So I
Right.
don't I don't think about what the left eye is seeing.
Yeah.
And it will get part of your cap as well when you're taking photos, which is
Mm.
incredibly annoying in the summer. But for music, they're great. And right now, I don't know if they're releasing a new version. They're cheaper than normal Ray-Bans.
Hmm.
So that's why I bought them. Before I went to
Okay.
Dash, I figured I'd try a pair of
Right.
AI enabled glasses, and they're pretty
Right.
fun.
Cool.
Of Dash, it said it looks like you're in a theater with many people sitting down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, not that great. But that was my checkout for the week. I actually think they're pretty cool. I kind of want just the normal version that are just either don't have any glass in them or
Yeah.
just like uh like a blue light reading one,
Mm-hmm.
because I do find the speakers are fairly handy and the weight actually doesn't
Mm.
bother me at
Mm.
all. I can use them for a fair amount of time.
Right.
Yeah, that is my
Well,
checkout.
you were talking about, how do you originally, how do you watch YouTube videos? When I,
Yeah.
you know, passively, I'm walking along and just listening to it, and occasionally I'll
Mhm.
stop it and like make a note of something that I should pay
Yeah.
attention to later on. Because when walking along, it's uh, I probably actually hear 30% of it because I'm kind of dozing off, and
Is your brain like in
yeah,
and out? Yeah, that's cool.
but
Letting your mind
occasionally
wander.
there's something really interesting. I need to take note of it, or at least take note of I need to watch this again. And so
Right.
when I get home, I will so in I use Obsidian, and
Mhm.
in Obsidian there's a plugin called something like Media, I don't know, Media something, where
Mm.
if you have the property tag of the URL of the video, it
Mhm.
will show the video, and then a scrolling set of notes where you can start typing, and you just press
Oh,
control is JKL, so control K
okay.
to start playing, uh, control L to speed up or to go skip ahead, J to skip back, and then H to slow down, and L to go faster, and control I to pause the video, insert a timestamp in the notes, and so you can start typing, and then just press control
Oh,
K and it starts playing again. Amazing.
wow. It's like Descript for YouTube or Descript, I guess most people
Yeah,
would say, but
except
I like saying Descript.
it's not doing the note taking for you. You are still, so I will do that. I will
Right.
pause it, and then I'll do, in my case it's
So more like Frame.io, like where you've got a live video on a website and you're annotating as it goes along. That's what
annotating,
you're
yeah.
saying.
And so
Gotcha.
I
Cool.
will like insert the timestamp, and then because it's paused, I use shortcut of caps lock R, which caps lock is actually, for me, it's Command Option Control Shift. So
Okay.
so
Four
one
fingers.
key.
Yeah.
Well, I just use two fingers because it's caps lock.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
otherwise, the four finger
Otherwise, it's
salute.
four
Yeah. Yeah.
fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I press that and R, and that starts Super Whisper, listening to what I'm saying. I say
Ah,
how I understood it, what I understood it to mean, and it pastes
right.
it
Right.
after that timestamp. And then I press Control K, and it starts playing again. But what makes that even better is
Mm,
I use both Arc and Zen
right.
browser, and actually no, I think this only does this work in, no, it does work on Zen. I think it has, yeah. So I can use the Obsidian Web Clipper, and the
Mm,
Obsidian Web Clipper will just basically clip whatever page you're looking at and put it
hmm.
into Obsidian. And one of the
Mm.
options it's got is if you highlight things, you're going to highlight with this whip clipper, and then when you're done, it'll push that in. Or in the case of
Oh.
but then you create the templates based on in the web clipper. And so I have a web
Hmm.
clipper that says, okay, when I'm on a YouTube video, so it
Hmm.
recognizes the page I'm on. When it's on that, then use this template, which pulls out the URL and puts it in the specific property tag it expects, and a few other
Great.
things that I shove in there. But then also, it works with either Anthropic or ChatGPT or even Olama. So I use it with
Hmm.
Olama. It will take the description. I can pull out the description, and if you've said it, oh, show me the transcript, it will grab the transcript as well. Now take
Oh.
the description and transcript, give me the summary of what this video says. And so I have that summary, but I don't really rely. That's more of a just a, make sure I have a kind of a high level view of it. But then I actually watch it and take the notes on it, because I mean, just having an AI take notes for you means you're not gonna. That's another thing you're not gonna pay attention to. So I mean, then
Absolutely.
I start actually taking the notes, and I found that to be amazing.
That,
Um,
that sounds like Evernote on steroids.
it's
I know I keep
perfect.
pining for Evernote, but yeah, that's awesome.
So that, yeah, it works. I thought I needed to make a video on that, so I'll probably make a
You
video on
should.
that
Yeah, absolutely.
because.
It feels like Obsidian is like that. If there's a Venn diagram of like what everyone's using for their
Hmm.
tools, Obsidian seems to be emerging as the Emacs-like operating
Hmm.
system that just all the graybeards are just like, yeah, but how do I get into Obsidian? And then you look at what they're doing, and this is like this massive Rube Goldberg-esque
Right,
system. It's like they've recreated N8N in Obsidian.
right, right.
And
Yeah,
they're using this as a workflow
yeah.
system, this action by keystrokes on their sorry, I'm trying to finish this meme. Kinesis Advantage 2. It's so perfect.
Yep.
It's a specific stereotype. And they're using like a refurbished Lenovo ThinkPad T series.
Yep.
Running some version of ArchOS that I've
Yeah,
never heard
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah,
Some Arch Linux like offshoot. Yes,
yeah.
this is where we're at. But I do feel like I don't know if it's Gen AI or like these open AIs or the natural language queries has opened up people to extend their quote unquote tool of choice because
Hmm.
the Sublime Text people are here too.
Yeah,
And I love Sublime, don't get me wrong,
sure.
but I love seeing the front ends, I guess, that people are using for these tools. I did finally uh, purchase Bolt AI, not Bolt
Hmm.
Dev, not Bolt New, but the one in the operating system. And I tried Raycast, and it really wasn't up what I was
Hmm.
looking
Okay,
for.
that one.
In
Okay,
in in Raycast, you pay for a little bit more to get what I
right,
was looking for in this. So I don't need a launcher. I don't think.
right.
What I need is someone who handles copy paste back and forth from a chat model for me
Hmm.
a lot of time via OpenRouter, and it actually is quite handy. But I've
Yep,
been using it for that, just like little snippets,
yep,
mostly because I probably need to hunker down and spend the time like you're doing,
yeah,
using my own tooling and building
yeah,
an ecosystem around it. But I've yet to cross that chasm.
yeah.
Uh, I'm trying to avoid the Obsidian. It feels like an iceberg. Like all the
It can be,
little,
yeah.
like
It can
yeah,
be,
to get to the niceties that you're talking about is
yeah.
like this massive.
There's a lot
You
of.
must
I mean, it's
you must learn Obsidian.
It's, I mean, some people will say it's the hardest tool to use and it's the ugliest tool to use. But
It's not that
if
ugly.
you I I haven't found anything that is more attractive than the Obsidian that I use by default. And
Right.
I mean, and I made set up that months and months and months ago, probably 2 years ago, and I haven't
Mhm.
changed it. So I don't fiddle with it. I just use it, and it's just
Right.
amazing.
Have you talked to anyone who uses? I think it's called Ulysses or Ulysses. It's a way to essentially distraction-free write on
I
Mac. And it's fairly costly.
I think I own it.
Okay, I
I
actually do
I
as
I
well.
think I
And
do.
Obsidian to me was like that, like a distraction-free
Right.
personal organization tool. And
Yeah.
if that's not what you want, I
Right.
feel like Obsidian is not the tool for you.
Yeah,
But
use
if you want to get in and
Ulysses
get out
and
and do stuff,
Bear and IA
yeah.
and
I loved IA.
yeah,
I get so
yeah,
angry when they released a new version. I didn't get like a
yeah,
discount or anything,
yeah,
but I loved IA,
yeah,
possibly to a fault back
yeah,
when it first launched. It's for those who haven't used it. IA is like a writing app for the iPad that also has a
yeah,
Mac version, but became a little bit pricey.
yeah.
But yeah, these tools that just show you the crux of what you want to do are
Hmm.
and again, I feel like I'm carting on my ID soapbox again here, but the aiders, I don't know if they're going to be good. The Kleins, the Rucodes, the Goose,
Hmm.
the different ways of just using or Gemini CLI, I guess a better example, or Claude Code, I guess was mentioned in
Right.
the chat. But those just what you need UIs for things. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that the terminal is coming back. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure you know, but this is amazing for me. Is like people are finally realizing the teletext or teletype or what have you
Yeah.
is when you're in a client server environment, this is perfect. You don't
Yeah.
need images. If you're primarily in text, this
Yeah.
is actually not a bad place to be. And I'm sure they'll make all these tools better.
Yeah.
But for now, I like the text UI.
Uh, for the for a text for command
Yeah.
line, have you used God? What was I? Um, there's a file manager recently switched to. Um,
Oh, Midnight Commander,
no.
Fire.
Um,
Those are my two
uh,
favorites.
um, God, what is it called?
FZF, Fuzzy Finder. I
No,
guess you
it.
could call it a file manager.
Oh God,
NeoVim.
it's
We already
something
said
that I
Emacs.
just started using, and I can't remember what it's called, and I don't have it on this machine. Uh, ugh,
Do you remember what language it was written in? That might be a hint.
no, it's new, relatively new.
Rust. I would assume
I think it's
Rust.
Rust based.
Yeah, a lot of these tools are Rust. Okay, so Rust
Um,
File Manager.
Rust. Yazi.
Yazzie.
Yes.
There you go, folks. This is how I read Matt's brain, by the way.
Yazi. That's
Because
it.
I
It
know he'll
is
probably know the license and the source code at least a little bit.
Yazi. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've actually I want to say the Primogen or somebody was showing it off the other day,
Hmm.
and what makes me jealous is when people are doing things in like two or three keystrokes, and it's like, oh, like I
Yeah.
want that
Yeah.
economy of typing. Like I want that. That
I
was cool.
sometimes wish it were two pane or like it were two things.
Right?
And there's a tweak you can install to get that, but by default it's just like one uh, um, a directory that you're looking at a time. You can't like say copy these files to this one. You have to go
Now,
back
now
and
hold
forward.
now hold on because on their GitHub repo is an advertisement or advertisement, as you might say in the US, for shoot, I've already forgot. Is it Wave or Warp?
Oh,
It
warp.
is in
Yeah,
fact Warp. Yes. So it is an ad. I think Wave is open source. Warp will give you as many panes as you want.
sure.
I'm not a fan just because they want to make money, which is
Right.
completely unfair. But I do feel like Yazi with some sort of
Yeah.
terminal emulator that has multi-pane will work. But I do like that's why I like Fire. That's why I like
Yeah.
Midnight Commander. Norton Commander is the
Right.
OG for me,
Right.
but yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta
so
have multi-pane.
I just recently started using this, and I finally got around to setting up my dot files, and so because
Ooh,
I'm actually spinning up new machines on Hostinger and a few other places often,
Nice.
and every time it's like, oh, I wish I had. So I finally set up my all my dot files
Nice.
using. I just did. I mean, there's a lot of tools that are out there. They're all way
I
too
think dot files is
complex.
the one
They're
that I
all
used to use.
too hard to
Yeah.
work with, like
The,
Stowe. And
dot files, the GitHub one is pretty easy. It
I just
just
use a
links dot
bare.
files to Git.
I think it's a bare repo. I think it's what's called a bare
Okay.
or base repo or something like that. And you point it to
Gotcha.
a. You actually have all the config files go in a different directory, but then the files that you're working with can be anywhere. Um, and then I
Okay.
have
Now,
just.
now, are you sharing your cursor rules and your windsurf rules and all those settings files? Because I'd love to see those.
I'm not. I'm not sharing my dot files
Oh.
at all.
Ah, ah, ah.
Um,
It's a
but
shame.
I don't
Those in
think
the
I
chat,
am.
we can start
Maybe
a
I am.
we
I
can
don't know.
start like a Patreon or something. Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
I
that's
am.
the next tier of Patreon. You can get access to your
But
dot files.
so I've got that, and so all I have to do is I just do I mean the command to run to like get this installed and all is kind of complex, but then I just create an alias for it, and so I do dot up, and that will update up. It'll push all my any changes. It'll push to the repo, and
Okay.
dot pull on the new machine will pull everything down, and that's all I have to know about. I make a change, I do dot up and then dot pull anywhere else. And I'm using Ansible again. So
Oh,
now, as soon as I spin up a machine, it's got everything
it's
already set. And
wow.
it's so much better than I mean
That's
it's
another name I haven't
yeah.
heard in a long
Oh
while.
yeah.
Ansible.
Yeah.
I
Ansible.
love Ansible. Don't get me
Yeah.
started. Big fan.
Um you guys
Yeah.
finding companies are now letting their teams use the oh
This might be the crux of the problem, right? Like I feel
yeah.
like the companies that are letting not just engineers, but their entire company use these tools seem to have less layoffs.
Mm,
Like I saw it, and he's always out there making memes. But Toby from Shopify was on interviewed
mm.
recently with I
Toby
think his
Lutke.
CFO. Yeah, and Toby was talking about how Shopify uses Gen AI not just in engineering, but throughout the company. And I think the
Mm,
example was someone in sales who uses Gen AI to help them get through
mm.
sheets and presentations and a whole bunch of just
Right.
toil that you would see in sales. And it feels to me like I don't want to say competitive advantage, but advantage at least. It
Right.
feels like this is an advantage for
If
companies who
you're
have embraced it.
doing things right and you are
Verifying,
aware of the
not
potential
trusting.
security issues, and I mean
Yep.
like with security, even if there's the terms of service or license terms
Yeah,
that
yeah, not the
say
same
we're not
as
going to
yeah,
keep your
mhm,
data.
the
But
consumer
then,
data.
I mean, I'm thinking of like OpenAI. Even
Oh,
if you
yeah.
have a temporary chat where it's supposed to, and you can say delete all my stuff, they're required to keep it because of a legal case with New York Times
Which
versus
apparently
OpenAI.
yeah, apparently they're fighting it, and apparently
Yeah,
that's unreasonable, but, like, people aren't aware of this, though.
yeah.
It definitely needs to be obvious. But, yeah,
Oh,
I think there's security, there's outdated info, there's a whole bunch of
yeah.
problems, but I
So,
agreed.
unrelated to AI, just thinking of license terms, have you seen
Oh.
the kerfuffle about CapCut?
N no, actually, and I'm a pretty big fan of
So,
CapCut. What has happened?
so
So
Cap,
this is I get caught in the fodder of this ByteDance stuff because I was over here using an editing tool and I didn't know where it came from. Maybe I should have, but all it does is edit your videos. What has happened to my beloved CapCut?
so CapCut, they changed their terms pretty recently,
Okay,
so
okay,
that and now anything that you edit on CapCut, according to the explanation I have seen, or that I've
okay.
a number of like lawyers who have gone through this saying, here's what's going on.
Mhm.
Any footage that you edit, now CapCut has legal license to use that footage for anything they want, for training AI, for
Oh no,
advertising,
rights
anything.
grab.
Anything
Yeah.
that you edit in CapCut is fair game to, according to other legal people who have gone through the license. And apparently this just changed, I want to say like a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that is awful.
It's, it's amazing.
That's
I
so
mean, it's
bad.
like,
It's It just makes me want to Gen AI my way out of this paper
Yeah,
bag as well. Like, can I make my own CapCut?
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. Isn't that what
Or like, can I make
um
my own Google Reader?
isn't that what Kirk is
I don't
doing?
want to. No. What? Really?
Kirk. Yeah,
Yeah. Kaiser.
Kaiser. Yeah.
What? Amazing. He's making his
He
own
was doing
CapCut?
a lot of videos, AI video stuff. You should talk to
Fantastic.
him.
I will. Yeah. That
Yeah.
is awesome.
I have one other thing that I have to share. I made a
Okay. I got
purchase.
to run shortly, but
Okay, I
let's
made a
see your
purchase,
purchase
and
here.
it is life changing.
Is this the
Absolutely
one?
life changing. I would put a, I would put. I have made two purchases that are life changing. One is my
Folks, get ready.
Atomos Ninja, life
Yep.
changing. The second
Yep.
one is a mug,
I knew it.
and
I
it
saw
is
you
the
holding it earlier.
Ember. It is the Ember mug. How did I not buy this before? This has
I, I
changed
I think the
everything.
fact that both of us have had like just shit that shouldn't have IoT that we're talking about this week that have IoT and are actually okay, like it's kind of
It
weird.
it is amazing. So I mean, as soon as you pour a hot drink, or I think any drink, it will try to get it to whatever temperature you've set. So if it's normally off, and then as soon as you add liquid to it, usually I add coffee to it. When it gets poured in, I think it's 150, or it's coming out of the espresso machine, and then
Yep.
so it'll let it cool down to, I think it's set to 145, and then it stays at 145.
Also, it's hot, like
It
piping
stays
hot.
hot. It stays
Whew.
hot for up to 2 hours off the base station, or you just put it on there and it'll stay hot forever. I mean, after a few hours, it's evaporation means it's getting nastier and nastier, but it
Stronger
stays
and stronger.
stronger and stronger. Yeah, that's probably the better way of saying. It's amazing. Before there was always I always had on my desk, I would have like four coffee cups that are all half full, because all of them they've gotten cold. It's like, well, it's no longer good. And I guess I could have taken them downstairs, but somehow they've accumulated all these older coffee cups that are all half full. And if they had just stayed warm for another extra 20 minutes, I would have drunk the rest of it. And this
Now
keeps
here's the thing.
everything. It was $99, so it's ridiculous, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. But I think the key here is that you're saying it's life changing. And I want to take the opposite approach. I've changed my life in order to deal with the fact that I can't seem to keep a hot beverage. Like I can't drink a whole hot beverage.
Yeah.
So I just got used to drinking cold beverages. So I drink cold
Mm.
coffee, cold tea. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're talking from a completely different reality to me where there's the
Yeah.
possibility of having hot beverages. This is
Yeah.
exciting.
I see the angle you're taking. I mean, it's wrong, but I understand it. But this is
I think the kids would call it copium. Yeah, it's definitely copium. So in order to
it's
deal with the fact that I would have like 5 cups of cold drinks, I just got used to drinking the cold drinks,
right.
which is terrible. It's
This is
terrible.
amazing.
I do have to go though. This
Okay.
was awesome. Thank you so much for the chat.
Ember mug.
Sorry we've been gone for so long
Yeah, I
and actually
know.
enjoying outside,
Vacation,
but
my vacation, yours. Okay, next
it's
week we're gonna
beautiful.
be here, right?
Dash happened. I'm here,
Do
same
we have
time,
anything
same
going
place.
on?
Not at all. Not that I
Me
know
too.
of.
No.
I mean, I
Okay.
never do somehow.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, folks.
Thanks all for being here. Well, oh, we got 8 right now. It's amazing.
We do. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Oh, I have to end it.
I think so. You have to find the end button.
End.